The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Whether you're new to sales or a lifetime veteran, the Blackbelt Sales Podcast will sharpen your sword and guide you to master the art of sales. And now, here's your host, the ninja himself, Gene Slade.
What's up, ninjas and future ninjas? Thanks for joining us again today for another episode of the Blackbelt Sales Podcast. Hey, if you are watching this live right now, will you please go down into the comments and just type out the word live for us? Help us to trick the algorithm into sending this out to more people so we can have a bigger impact in our communities. And if you're watching this on a replay, please just type replay down in the comments. So I've got my man Don Johnson in the booth with me this morning, and we're going to be talking about the price objection because we're hearing this a lot more lately, that people are becoming just a little bit more price sensitive potentially. Yeah. And we're hearing stuff like, I need to get other quotes. You know, I need to compare apples to apples and things like that. So let's give them some stuff that some practical and tactical stuff this morning that they can use to deal with that, Don. Good morning.
Yeah. And unless you're going to be the cheapest guy in town, you better be prepared for this. Selling is when you can be $1,000 or $5,000 more than someone else and still get the job, right? Taking the order is all about being the low cost, low price guy. And there's some merit to, that section of the market that's what they want to be. But that's not the typically well-trained or the company that is organized and has a staff and can really support people that can really be the lowest price. And when are you going to get the best quality and the best service and the best warranty, all for the lowest price? Generally, that's not going to happen in any product, and it doesn't happen in our industry. So you better be prepared for people to say, I'm getting other bids, or that's $1,000 higher than the other guy. So you got to be prepared for the price objection. And that's where we'll start on that. And my favorite one to start with, and I know, Gene, you jump in here anytime, it's just mirror them. When they say, I'm going to get other bids, just mirror them. Go. We covered this last time. You're going to get other bids. Get them to open up and talk about that. You may even get that, can you say more? That's what we covered in the last video, last podcast we were in. So go back and watch that if you need more on how to get people to open up and talk to you. But then what else can we do, Gene? What else should we be talking about when people say, I want to get other bids? I'm going to get other bids.
So you guys, anything like me, like back in the day when this would happen to me, and I would get stuck almost like a deer in the headlights, right? And then all of a sudden, because I'm stuck, I start to get embarrassed, and then I can start to feel my face getting warmer because it's getting red, and then you're even more embarrassed because you know that the client can see that your face is getting red, and they don't know whether or not you're angry or embarrassed. I mean, how uncomfortable is that? Like, to not have anything to say, or to not have a pre-packaged and ready to go response. Mm-hmm. I mean, that really, Don, is one of the biggest differentiators between a true professional counselor salesperson and an amateur, is that they've already got what they're going to say ready to go, right? So Don says to mirror the client, right? I'm going to need to get some other prices. You need to get other prices? And then shut up. Now, what does this do for us, guys? It gives us an opportunity to collect ourselves, right? We're not stuck like a deer in the headlights. And the client is going to begin to explain more, right? Because they're uncomfortable with silence. And it's very possible that the real objection will come out at that stage of the game. Another question you could ask them is, what do you seek to gain by getting other quotes? It's probably going to come out at that stage of the game that they had expected that the price would be this and it's actually this, or they heard that somebody got one for this much and they want to go call that person because they think that it's going to be better for them when it's really not, right? But those questions or the mirroring will give you an opportunity to think, and it'll take the pressure off of you a little bit.
Right.
Go ahead, Don.
And I like this. When what do you seek to gain is price your only concern? Because a lot of times they will say something like, "What do you seek to gain?" Well, I just want to, I want to make sure this is a good price or something. That word "price" will sneak out of whatever their comment is. Price your only concern. Now, had we done our comfort survey and we talked about it already, it could have come up already, but it still can come up again. We've seen that to happen where people just comes back up because, they had a number, even if we price condition, they had a number in their head that's $10,000 less. Things have gotten expensive in our industry. And we're talking about $20 and $30 and $40,000 jobs that 5 years ago we're talking about 10 and 15 and 20,000. Can't say that that inflation has doubled, but it has raised so much that the number feels very large to people.
Not just to people, but to us being in the industry as long as we have, right?
Yeah. I didn't spend that much for my first car, or I didn't spend that much. I didn't spend that much for my first house sometimes.
Yeah.
Maybe even the house we're in right now. That has happened too. But people equate numbers to what they've spent in the past. Yeah, but you've been living in this house for 40 years. That's not very relevant at all that you didn't spend as much for this house, right? So, but that's what goes through our mind. We hit a number in our head. Everybody has, I call it fear of zeros, right? I can picture what a $10 looks like. I can picture $100. I can picture $1,000, what I can do with it, what I can buy. I can picture $10,000. Now it's starting to get a little more fun. Okay, I can still picture that. It's been fun to walk around with $10,000 before. Now add another zero to it. Can you picture $100,000 in your hand? What would that feel like? What would that look like in your checking account? What would that look like? $1 million, just another zero. Well, at some point, everybody hits that point where they just can't visualize it. Maybe it's $1 million, maybe it's 10 million, maybe it's 100 million. But we all hit that number. Most of our clients hit it somewhere between the 1,000 and 10,000. And most of the techs in this industry definitely hit it when they hit 10,000. They just can't believe they've got to talk about $10,000. It's called fear of zeros. It's not a big deal. It's just another zero on the end of the number. Just treat it as if you're just talking pennies, dollars, not tens of thousands of dollars. And it's so much easier in your mind.
If it's a lot of money to you, it's going to be a lot of money to the client. So you got to kind of get desensitized to that. And, Don, on the topic of sticker shock, which is kind of what we're talking about right now, It really, really helps you if in the beginning, before you get too deep into any presentation, in the first 20, 25 minutes max, like it should be less than that probably, to price condition your clients. And if you don't know what price conditioning is, it's to let them know what kind of range of pricing is out there today. So for instance, if I was out quoting a new heating and air conditioning system, I would ask the client before I went to do my load calculation if they'd ever purchased a new heating and air conditioning system before. And if they said no, I would price condition. And it would sound something like this. Well, just so you know, I've had clients who spend as much as $50,000 on a whole new awesome top of the line home comfort system with all of the ductwork and all the wonderful air cleaning products that are available today. I've also had clients spend as little as $9,000, $10,000, $12,000, but most people spend somewhere between 15 to 25 or whatever the number is, right? Why do we do that? We want them to know that there's a range of pricing. Number two, they might have expectations for what the pricing is, and they might be unrealistic. So this gives them an opportunity to kind of settle from that sticker shock, right? It's still not going to be a great experience for them, but it's going to help them to start settling into what most people are doing, right? The herd and the pack mentality.
That's exactly that herd and pack mentality, that last choice. And if you really hear that, some, that high number, a few, the low number, and most, the majority, whichever phrase you like there, but most end up at about 15 to 18,000. That'd be my number right now, 15 to 18,000. So, but people know there's a few cheap people out there, and they don't always want to be that. They know there's those some lucky ones, won the lottery type people that get to have everything. We don't get to feel like that we're one of those. So we feel like we want to end up being in that most category, most herd and pack mentality. We call it herd and pack mentality because we feel safe in groups, right? I like to, we call a bunch of cows, right? And they're standing in the pasture, a herd. And if you ever drive past the pasture, it's 100 acres and they're all standing together over in this one little corner, all packed together. That's why it's called herd and pack mentality. They could have their own world out there all to themselves and be, where the grass hadn't been trunked on and been, been torn up. But yet they all pack together right there in that corner because it's safety, right?
There's
That's
safety in numbers.
There's safety in numbers. That's why it's called herd or pack mentality. And just think of that next time you drive past a pasture and you see they're all sitting right over there together. They're safety. Our customers, our clients, they all want to feel safe when they make decisions to do business with us. So we've got to help them feel safe. Most is the word that does that for us. Most spend about 12 to 15. Let's find out what your system would be. Hold the other end of this tape measure and let's do some calculations.
Now, there's another thing that the price conditioning will help with too, guys. And question, have you guys ever made a sale? Let's say it's the evening, you go home, you get up the next day, the install's supposed to go in that morning, and then you get a call from the office, so-and-so called in this morning, and then they canceled, right? Price conditioning can help with reducing cancellations because people spend money loudly, yes or no? Right? When if you go out and you spend 10 grand or even 1,000 or 100,000 or $1 million on something, people tend to talk about the things that they're buying and really more complain about them, right? Doesn't it usually come off as a complaint? Well,
yeah.
And then we want to other human beings want to help that person, right? So they're like, oh crap, you spent that much? I got one for this. You should call my guy. Right.
Yeah.
Now, if the client already knows it, let's say they spent 25 grand and their friend goes, well, I got one for 15. They can remember now in their mind, there's a much higher likelihood that they'll go back to that price conditioning conversation and go, yeah, I know you can get them cheaper. He told me that there's a huge range and some people spend more, some people spend less, but this is what I chose. Right. I found that it helps to reduce cancellations when you've price conditioned your clients.
And it really helps you feel obligated to put 3 choices out every time you present because I just did that price conditioning. I've got to make that true. We want to prove ourselves right. So we have to put a $25,000 or $50,000 option out, whatever your number is. We have to put an 8 or 9 out, and we have to show that. Now we're not going to show them in that order. We price condition high, low, middle. We present them from the top down, and that's a different conversation. But what's really cool about that is it almost makes us as the technician, as the comfort advisor, as the salesperson, feel like we've got to at least put 3 choices out there because we said there were 3. And really that's in the best interest of you, the process, and the client to have a choice. If they choose it, it was their decision. If you give them 1, it's yes, no. And that's a different sales process. Yes, no can easily switch back from a yes to a no. But choices, because you could always say somebody, we did talk last night and there are some other choices that you could make that are a little cheaper. Yeah, and you're right. I do remember that. But those didn't fit our house like I wanted. Boom. Now you're back to holding there. So, but price is going to be a bigger concern. Mirroring, what do you seek to gain by getting other prices? And is price your only concern? Is really getting back into the price objection. You got to remember to get that started. Get them to talk. Get them to tell you something that will help you go from there. It's not always your price was too high. It may be, I don't have that much money. And that's a different conversation. Even though they might be saying, I'm going to get more prices, you're thinking, okay, it's a price objection when really it's, I only have 15,000 and you're at 16.5.
Right. And they're embarrassed. They don't want to say anything. So they give you a different kind of objection, which is just a smoke screen and not a real objection.
Exactly. So you might find out that it isn't about, your price is really too high to begin with. It's, I just don't have a choice. You haven't explained to me how I can purchase this well enough. Right. And that happens. We kind of assume our clients know everything we know about financing or payments or whatever, and they know nothing about it. But how do you expect them to know everything about it until we tell them? So we have to make sure they know on a weekly basis how much this system could be.
So guys, you're not going to use everything that we're going to go over this morning on every call, right? You're probably going to have to pick and choose the scenarios, but I wanted to give you some tools this morning that you can take with you. You're probably going to want to write this stuff down because when you write it down, you got a much higher chance of remembering it. Plus you can go back to your notes and study, right? So what we've given you so far was, what do you seek to gain by getting other quotes? Is price your only concern? We also talked about price conditioning. Now, it's important to make a point that a lot of times the reason people don't move forward is because they're fearful of making a mistake, right? Now, they might say it a different way. They might say, I don't want to be taken advantage of, which would create embarrassment, which is the number one fear of pretty much every human being on the face of this earth, right? But it's a fear of making a mistake. And when I sell in the field, I flip that around. I use it to my advantage. Because they're afraid of making a mistake, I create a significant amount of doubt of doing business with a contractor that's cheaper than me, right? And you want to start doing this too. Some of the things that you could ask a client to set this up would, other than what we've already given you, isn't it better to spend a little bit more than you anticipated rather than a little less than you should? And then I would probably get permission to roll into some features and benefits of my company. Or like, would you like to know why more people choose us for this type of work, regardless of any difference in price? And then bam, I'm going to hit features and benefits, right? And then I'll trial close and I'll close. Mm-hmm. But a couple of other just one-liners, if you will, that get people to start thinking about it might be a mistake to go with a cheaper contractor would be, you don't want the cheapest, do you? I literally closed a $70,000 deal that turned into a $250,000 deal just a month and a half with that exact phrase. You don't want the cheapest, do you? There was somebody who was comparing me to other trainers. And today they're grateful that they went with us because they're exploding. The business is doing phenomenal. The technicians are doing things they've never done before in their lives. But that's a really, really good, I call them landmines, right? I set up landmines for other people to trip up on if they do come in after me, and I create fear of doing business with the cheaper contractor. And you want to start doing that too. So you don't want the cheapest, do you? Do you always buy the cheapest? Most people are going to say no, because only 15% of the population just buys based on price alone. And then there's another conversation, Don, about the 3 Ps. Do you know what the 3 Ps are?
No, share that with us. What are you talking about there?
So it's product, people, and price. So when I get somebody that tells me, for instance, I have hot button questions that I ask clients, and I ask them to rate the importance of certain categories on a scale of 1 to 10. Well, sometimes clients will be giving me like all 10 straight across the board. And then at the end, when I ask them how important it is to them to get a cheap price, they give me a 10 as well, right? Now, when was the last time, guys, that you bought the best quality product, had the best service on that product, warranties and service after the sale, all at the cheapest price? When was the last time that happened? Has it ever happened? So that's a conversation that you can have that simply with a client, but you can also have a conversation like this. So, Mr. Smith, when you're talking about installing a new heating and air conditioning system, there are three things to take into consideration. The first would be the quality of the product. The second would be the quality of the people and individuals putting it in for you and taking care of it afterwards. And then the third would be the price. Which of these three things do you think it would be in your best interest to compromise on? Would it be in your best interest to compromise on the quality of product? Maybe get a product that was inferior, one that you didn't like as much, that broke down on you more often, maybe was noisier, maybe you just didn't enjoy living with it. Would it be better for you to compromise on the quality of the human beings, the people that put it in for you, that service it, that maintain it, that are supposed to be there for you after the sale? Or would it be in your best interest to compromise on the price? And a lot of times I'll say, you don't even have to answer that question right now, just something to think about, right? A lot of times that gets them into a different perspective. Okay, this logically makes sense. I can't get the best product with the best people for the cheapest price, right? And if you can start to get a client to think that way, they'll begin to think about, if I go cheaper, that could be a mistake. And then the one that you always loved on is, isn't it better to spend a little bit more than you anticipated rather than a little less than you should? Right? That always did really, really, really well for me in the field.
Well, that's a very, puts it in perspective, kind of gets them thinking. And it's a question that's very hard to disagree with. People are wired for agreement, and it's very easy to agree with that statement. So I like that. I like that quite a bit. And that rolls into a nice trial close. Can you see now why more people choose us to do this type of work, despite any difference in price? And that should support your features and benefits. If you don't have your features and benefits, and you don't know 5-10 reasons why people should buy from you, well, that's something you should develop. Or it's where else could they get that, Gene? Right?
Dude, they can get that right inside the Lead Ninja Mastermind, and they can get it at the next Mansion event that's coming up. It's going to be May 29th through June 2nd, right? Guys, you've got to make it out to one of these things. The people that go through this have massive, massive financial change in their life. I was just reading Derek's post. Darren showed me his numbers from before the on-site that we did and before he came to the mansion. Darren had $8,500 in sales on 128 calls. Let's just do that math. We were talking like $40 a call or $50 a call on average. Just this week, Monday through Wednesday, he's already over $20,000. Yeah. His average ticket now, it went up to like $2,000 and then $2,400. And this week, his average ticket's like $6,000. And we're talking about maintenance calls. And by the way, Darren is not allowed to sell systems. Okay, so we're talking about indoor air quality and duct modifications or duct replacements is what he's allowed to sell. Right. So the month, his month to date, and he had 2 weeks off. He's only worked 3 or 4 days, I think. He's over. I think he's at about $70,000 in sales for the month because he had a couple weeks off for National Guard or a week off for National Guard.
Right, but several days.
Yeah, I mean, to go from $8,500 on 128 calls to $70,000 with a week off this month already. Yeah. What a drastic change. I mean, he's more than 5x his income.
And we see people that get just an immediate, ramp up just coming out of the class. But we get that next level guys who then go through and actually do the daily training, show up for the class, produce their videos, and they just keep going. Where a lot of the guys come out of the class and they jump to the next platform, they get that next, but then they plateau out, maybe even drift down a little bit because I know everything and I don't have to study anymore. continual training is what we all do. I'm still doing, this 20 years, and I'm still finding stuff every day that I go back and restudy and learn from Gene. And Gene puts a lot into himself in classes. So you have to have continual growth, and maybe even come back to a mansion or another event. It's totally different when you come back, drinking from a fire hydrant the first time, and the second time it's like the bells, the just everything clicks, and you're like, oh crap, why didn't I learn that? I had you out to our company, 9 different times every 3 months you came out to my company. And I laugh. That's like, I learned something on the 9th trip, and I would be like almost mad at myself because I had heard it 8 times and it never clicked for me. It's like, oh, crap, how did I miss that? That's gold. We should have been using this all along. But it took me multiple times being exposed to the training. And, I had you out to my company every 3 months for 2 years. Plus, there was some other trips that we did the previous years through that. So, yeah, you'd been to our facility a lot. I put a lot into our guys, a lot in training. And I see a lot of the guys that work for me out there still doing well. I'd love to see them get back in and come to another group and kind of tune them up. But, man, it's fun when you look back at all the people I've trained. You've trained probably far more than me, but my estimate was I have trained somewhere around 500 technicians through all the years with my company. It was phenomenal with that.
It's funny you say the 9th time, because when I was training with Grant Cardone to become one of the very first 10X mentor coaches and speakers in the world, he actually taught me that if you listen to something or you read a book 9 times, you'll learn more on the 9th time than you did the first 8. And it's about that aha moment that you're talking about, when you hear something, but it didn't really click. And then all of a sudden the circumstances of your life have changed, or you've had enough experience, got enough wisdom now to where when you hear it again, it's like, boom. And those one little thing like that can add $500,000 or $1 million in revenue for a technician.
Right. Training every day. It's a different subject, but training every day is important. That doesn't mean that you're
every day.
Yeah. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're training in your facility or in a big group, but you got to commit that you do 30 minutes every day. Most of you guys have 30 minutes of windshield time that you could pick up and listen to a video, watch these podcasts. I'm going to shout out to Bobby. Bobby hadn't seen you on class. I texted him a little bit, but Bobby says he picks up every one of these podcasts and he puts them on rotation. When he's finished, he goes back and starts over and listens to them all again. That's all he does between calls all day long while he's working is this podcast. I'm really happy and super stoked. I'd like to see Bobby post some numbers, and let's see what his life has done, because I know he's had some success out there. And just listening to the podcast, really.
When he came out of the mansion event, I'll never forget the first post that he put inside of the Lead Ninja Mastermind, which, if you guys don't know, the Lead Ninja Mastermind is like the continuing education after one of these live events. Mm-hmm. And it's also something that sometimes people enter into without going to a class. So if you've got technicians out there that you need help with, or salespeople out there that you need help with, you can enroll them in the twice a week live training. And like, it's way deeper than just twice a week live training. There's so much content available to them. It's like 600 hours or something at least worth of content, and everything that I've ever written before. But he came out of the class, and if you guys don't know, we create these lists, right? These prioritized lists, and the list might be $10,000 long. A lot of it's like nice to have stuff, not necessarily something you would consider mandatory. But we create that list so that you at least get the mandatory stuff, right?
Right.
10 grand makes $2,000 look cheap, is the whole point. Mm-hmm. And so I was telling these guys, this is not designed for you to get the whole list. It's just designed to get the mandatory, but sometimes it backfires and they buy everything. And that's a real pain in the butt, right? Joke. Well, Bobby came out of class and got like a backfire almost immediately. And he says, Gene, your system is unequivocally broken because I didn't get the mandatory. I got the whole list. It was something like that. But
now I got to stay here all day and do this work. Oh, be careful. You might end up with more work than you really want to do sometimes when you get good at building the list and get good at closing. So that's a fun and funny thing that kind of happens. So I'm excited that to see Bobby, get to talk with him again. I've been messaging with him a little bit today. Because again, I love to see everybody's success, and we've had some crazy ones. I didn't get a chance to read that. The post popped up, but we had an electrical company, talking about their success today, and I was really, really happy to hear, because one guy was pretty talented already, Shiloh. He was very talented, and he took to the system and really did well with it. I mean, he was a talented guy to begin with. The other guy, Trey, was kind of like Corey. I'm getting it wrong myself, but was kind of like questioning it a little bit, or wasn't sure about it.
Struggling a little bit.
He was struggling. He came to the class, and now the call today said, man, they've got so much work that they can barely have the time to come on the call. And I want to caution them, as I would caution everybody, don't put the cart before the horse, so to speak.
Right.
Just keep training, because if you stop because we're so busy, you'll end up getting yourself into a little bit of a rut, and then you got to figure out how to get out of it. It's easier to stay at the top with 30 minutes a day than it is to fall into a rut and realize I'm going to have to do 2 solid weeks of training or going back to basics just to get myself out of this rut. Because it happens to us all when, momentum. I always say she's a fickle person. We won't call the female, she's a fickle one. When you have momentum, man, it is awesome. But when you lose it, feel like you couldn't close the door. You talked about that before on it. Couldn't close the door. Keep momentum in your truck with you. And you do that by turning off the radio and turning on training, turning on something that builds your mind versus subtracting from you. Add to yourself. Go.
When I owned Air Genie, I was really, really manic about the guys' training. We had training every single day. It lasted about an hour. Sometimes it went longer. But I also loaded up their iPhones that I provided with all kinds of training and encouraging and motivational stuff. And some of my guys would come in, and it was just clear that they had not been doing their training. And it just struck a nerve this one day. And I think at the time we had like 24, 26 trucks. And I literally got up from the training table, went out to the parking lot, and unscrewed 20-something antennas from the trucks, bent them in half, and threw them in the dumpster. I literally threw all of my antennas from my trucks away so that they could not go and listen to the radio. I mean, that's how important it is to a business. And on the topic of Tori too, Tori had a physical transformation as well at the Mansion event. Not all you know this, but at the last Mansion event, I had my personal barber come out to the event and stay with us. And I think he did 16 haircuts and beard cuts and everything. Tori had this big beard. It was almost like standing in his way, right? He just didn't look the part. Guys, everything matters. And having that big beard took away from how handsome Tori really was. And if you think that looks does not come into play at all inside of a sale, you're sadly mistaken, right? And I'm not saying you have to be a handsome person, but you need to be clean, right? You don't need to have anything that's distracting your client from the sale. And Tori had this big beard. We took it all the way down so that he could see the skin, lined it up for him. I mean, he looked so confident afterwards and went back and immediately started crushing it. So, guys, if there's a lot that we do here at Lead Ninja that you don't see. That it's kind of like an iceberg, right? You get to see the tip of the iceberg, but an iceberg, 90% of it's beneath the water, and you don't see it. And you don't see all of these things. We don't always talk about them, but when your guys come out and they train with us, I'm focused on all of the details. right? Even right down to their appearance. So I paid my barber to be there and to cut 16 of these guys. And man, they came out looking fresh. Some of these guys had never had a real professional haircut, right? They've been going to Great Clips or Fantastic Sam's or whatever. But this guy knows his shit, right?
Some of them, and some guys look like they haven't had a haircut, period. But we can, we can end. I think one actually said it was like 4 or 5 years since he had a haircut or something. I don't remember.
Oh
it
my gosh,
crazy number for me because I've got to go every other month at least. 6 weeks. So now that I know that the barber is going to be there, I'm putting my name on the list right now. I'm gonna get a haircut again at the mansion event. That was the best haircut I've ever had. But
bring your cash. You can give a good tip.
Everything matters, and if you're going to tell people you do the best work and the best quality and the best price, and you go out there and it looks like you haven't even washed your shirt in a week, you look just kind of nasty. I get that you've been in an attic and you could have some dirt on you for the day, but when it looks like first call in the morning and you're wearing a shirt that looks like it hasn't been washed ever before, you're setting an image, and everything matters. Now, I'll tell you that there are guys who can sell even in the roughest, but their sales skill better be higher and higher and higher to replace all the negatives that they're doing. You know, your bad breath and smoking and putting the cigarette out in their yard, and your truck is nasty, and you open the door and crap falls out in their driveway. I'm not saying you can't make money on that call, but your sales skill better be at the highest level, because you just basically started in a hole. So everything matters. Your appearance is one of them. Good haircut. If you're going to do a beard, we love that the beard is so short you can see the skin through it. That's our preference. That feels professional, feels good. I'm not a tattoo person, but I prefer not to have tattoos on the face and neck. It's very acceptable on the arms.
Definitely not like 6 or 7 teardrops, right? You don't really want that.
That's exactly right. That definitely has the wrong thing going for it. But look good, and again, that's at least not a subtraction when you go ask for the order, right?
Right.
If you knew that having a dirty shirt on was going to cost you $500 today, would you probably go and clean it or get a new one? Yeah, it's worth you could make the money back up by getting a new one. And most of our companies provide them anyway. Just go and say, my shirt's dirty. Give me another one. Carry 2 so that your second call of the day or after lunch. Unfortunately, if you're like me, you kind of wear half your lunch the rest of the day. But if you get something on your shirt from lunch, go change your shirt. It's okay to have pride in yourself. Now, we got off topic. We're pretty much done with our time today, but if you're dealing with the price, remember to mirror, get them to talk. What do you seek to gain by getting other quotes? Is price your only concern? Have 10, 20, 30, 40 reasons would be awesome of why people should do business with you, because it might be a different 10 that this customer needs than that customer needs. You got to understand that just getting 10 might not be enough for this situation, and the next situation different. So you might want more than 10, but let's start with 10. Remember to trial close. Can you see now why more people choose us to do this type of work, despite being, not being the cheapest guys in town, or a difference in price, whatever their words were, kind of feed them back to them right there. And then just say, you want me to go ahead and get you on the schedule to do this work today? You want me to go ahead and take care of this while I'm here today? I love the word today. You kind of called it out in our meeting. I think that implies immediate action. It implies convenience as well.
Sure.
So I love that. I love working that today into a lot of phrases, because most people believe they're going to have to schedule another call. They're going to have to take off work another day, and they're going to have to be inconvenienced with you showing up late. If you told me all of those, I had to deal with you again, I'm probably going to say no to some things too. So make sure they know if you can take care of it quickly or immediately or today, or get you on the schedule today. All of those are very good feelings you give prospective a client. So
Good stuff, man.
Any more information about the mansion? It's May 29th through June 2nd. It's a Wednesday through a Sunday. Wednesday's the travel day. You want to, fly to Orlando. That's
we check
MCO
in
Airport.
at 6 p.m. So 6 p.m. check in at the mansion. The mansion's about 45-minute Uber ride from the airport. So fly into MCO. Get yourself an Uber. You don't need a car while you're there. Everything that you're going to need will be right there for you at the mansion. I'm going to feed you. I'm going to house you. I've got beverages there, some of the alcoholic version. We're going to stay there together. We'll do training probably 8 to 9 hours during the day in the theater. And then in the evenings, we're just going to hang out together. We're going to get to know each other better. You're going to be able to ask more questions. And that's really where a lot of the connections are made, not just between us and the participants, but among the participants. I mean, imagine coming to an event like this and running into guys that are selling $2, $3, $4, $5 million and being able to create friendships with those people across the country and being able to even utilize them for help sometimes. What happens here at these events is just phenomenal. I promise you have never been to an event this good in your life. I know it's a tall promise, but I'm gonna back it up.
I will agree. It is phenomenal. The stories that come out of this, these trips, and we do these from time to time. This is probably the last one through the season, I would guess. We'll have to depend on that, but they're incredible. We sit around, and even though we make connections in the evening and sit around, most of the time we're still training. We're still asking. We're still like helping.
Dog, I can't go from one room to the other without somebody stopping me and asking me a question. I mean, it's just how it is there. I mean, people come with so many questions. So guys, if you
finally have somebody who they can really ask, that's really cool.
That's not going to say, I don't know. Right. Yeah. So guys, if you want more information about the mansion, just put mansion down in the comments, or I'm going to give you my cell number. Feel free to text me. All right. It's actually my cell, not somebody else picking it up and calling you back. It's not Gene Slade AI. Okay. No, we've got that, but 239-848-6533 is the telephone number. 239-848-6533. Please do text. Please don't try to call me first. Please try to text me first. Let me know who you are, and then I will carve out some time to have a conversation with you. So put mansion in the comments or shoot me a text, and we'll have somebody get to you. And for what we do, just so you know, for what we do at Lead Ninja, we are the cheapest in town. You won't find anything like this. So Don, thanks for joining me today.
Always fun.
I'm going to take off. Here's a quick video about the event that's coming up, guys. Take a look. Also, if you're on Spotify or if you're on Apple or one of those platforms that is just audio, you can go ahead and tune out if you want. But before you do, please go over and give us a review. Click those 5 stars and just say something nice about the program. Allow us to know what it is that you've benefited from. Kind of like the guy earlier just dropped a comment that said he used our follow-up script and he made a $9,000 sale that he wouldn't have otherwise made. That was freaking awesome. So give us a review, please, and check out this video. We'll be right back.
I'm Jonah Gorlitz. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky. I've been doing HVAC for about 1.5, 2 years now, and I work for Instant Air out of Shepherdsville, Kentucky.
Hi, I'm Kim Kay. I work with Leads Nearby, and I've been working with Leads Nearby for over 8 years, and we work with HVAC, electrical, and plumbing contractors.
So my name is Chris Laurentino from Comfort Specialists. We're out of Morris County, New Jersey. I've been in the industry about 17 years now. joined the mastermind because it's not just a sales course. Actually, it's not really a sales course at all.
So the reason I joined the mastermind is I've seen some people's results online that
This is different from other events that I've been to. I've been to various contest events for quite a few years now.
It's really taught me how to understand and communicate to the customer well. It's actually my second mansion trip.
from the community of how well some people have done, and I really wanted to be a part of that.
This one is the best space. It's the most glamorous space. And it's basically one training that builds upon each other.
Share in that success, and I felt that the best way to achieve that was to actually get here and get involved in the training. And frankly, in my mind, there's no better way to train than in person.
Since I've been in the class since December, my income has improved, my revenue for the company has improved, my customer relations have improved, and my call volume has decreased while the profits and everything else has increased.
Being here is a unique experience that you can't replicate in just a Zoom class. There's so much more that you get out of this.
I mean, other events I've been to, it's a lot of information on a lot of topics, where this is very concentrated. I feel like it allows you to have more focus.
So I want to talk to the owners real quick before we get off. If you have never done business with myself or with Lead Ninja and you're an owner of a company, I want you to reach out to me because I want to do something special for you. If you've been concerned that the pricing is too high or something like that, please give me a call. I want to have a conversation with you, and I want to remove the risk for you. Okay? I'm the only guy in the industry that's got a money-back guarantee when it comes to these trainings. But you're going to have to call me to get the details on the money-back guarantee. But I promise you, I will figure out how to make it affordable, and we will make a massive impact on your business. Till next time, ninjas, go out there, slay some dragons. Have an amazing day and an amazing weekend. I love you guys. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Don.
Bye, Gene. Thank you.